I'm professor in WCS, and I am the lecturer of 6UR. Actually, I've been a professor for 16 years at MIT and taught 6UR for the last 2 years, or last maybe 18 months. So I'm assuming you guys are junior and senior students, correct? No, actually, maybe you are junior and sophomore, correct? Okay. So we are here to tell you a bit about the SuperUROP class. So before I tell you about SuperUROP, I actually want to hear from you. What is SuperUROP? What do you guys know about SuperUROP? Anyone? Come on.
It's like a year long.
It's a year long. What else? I mean, guys, you are here for some reason other than the pizza, okay? I mean, I understand pizza is very important, but I mean, you have to know something. Come on. Yeah, so during the class, you have to present a poster at some point, and also you write a paper. What else? Why are you interested, actually? Yeah.
You better continue doing more research.
Oh, you do research. That's cool. Yeah. Okay. What else? Why did you guys come to this session other than the free pizza? What?
You paid like $25 an hour.
Oh, payments. Very important. You get paid for research. Where else do you get a class that pays you? What else? Okay. Are you guys shy? MIT students are not shy, so.
Satisfy the communication requirements?
It satisfies the communication requirements. That's correct. Anything else that you guys know about the class? Yes? Okay, great. No, nothing. Wants to learn. Okay, so let me tell you about the class. Okay, so SuperUROP class has two components. One of them is research. So like you can think of this as two pillars. To some extent, they are not very connected as much as other classes where you have components of other classes that are very mixed together. So in a sense, there is one component which is your research. So if you guys decide to join 6UR, then each one of you will be associated with a faculty professor and a mentor, maybe a graduate student or postdoc, and you will be working on a research project within that group of people in their lab. And that would be the research section of this SuperUROP class. Okay? And then in addition to the research, there is the class itself. There are the lectures and the recitations, and those are more focused on how you present your research. So you are doing the research in the lab with your professor and mentor, and then you go to the class, you hear from professors about their research. So we have every lecture, there are people like professors and people from the industry that come and tell you about their research. And then in the recitation and some of the lectures, we also talk about how you can present your own research, whether that presentation is through posters or through academic papers that you write, and hopefully by the end you can submit to a workshop or a conference. Okay, so these are the two components. Now, of course, it is also different from other classes at MIT in the sense that it is a 2-semester class. So each semester you get 6 units. So in the fall semester, you get the first 6 units, and then you complete the 6 other units in the spring for a total of 12 units of class. Now, those 12 units, so people, when they hear 6 units, they expect very lightweight class. But actually, the one thing that you have to keep in mind is that the 6 units of class are actually for the class, are for the time you spend in the lectures and on the assignments in the class. And that is, the workload is 6 units of class. But then you are expected to spend 10 hours per week on your research. And that's what you are paid for. That's where the money comes from. Okay? So, so keep in mind these two things. So research, 10 hours per week, doing your research project with your professor and mentor. And then in class, you are preparing how to write and present your research Whether in the fall semester, typically we work on a poster, in the spring we work on a paper, and that has its own set of assignments associated. Those are 6 units, but the money is for the research, and together that is a class. Okay? Now, let me tell you a bit about the research part. So as I said, each one of you would be working with someone in like a professor at MIT. Many of you probably are double ECS student, and perhaps you're going to work with some professor here in double ECS. Actually, who among you is not in double ECS? Can you raise your hand? Okay. Yeah, so we have in the class some people from other part of the engineering school, and for you guys, you also are going to have a mentor and professor that you are working with in your department. And like these are some example projects. So here you see like some people working on nanomaterials, some people working on circuits, some people working on robots, many people working on AI problems and machine learning. It's your favorite project you get to pick, and you spend the semester on it. And at the end of each semester, you present your research. So there is a showcase where you prepare a poster, and you stand there, and we invite people from the industry, we invite the faculty, and also your fellow students, and everyone is there mingling, and we have food, and it's a very nice event. But also you get to tell people about your research based on what you learned throughout the semester. So there is one showcase at the end of the fall, one showcase at the end of the spring. Now, as I mentioned, the research part has this $3,000, up to $3,000 if you spend 10 hours per week in the lab, and $3,000 per semester, so total of $6,000. And in addition to that, like basically, as I said, the 10 hours on the research, that is not like if you can't count the time in the class and the time on the assignment for the class, that is just 10 hours for research. Now, for students who are from, so there are many of the department in the engineering school, and my guess of the people who raise their hand and say they are not part of double ECS, many of those departments are already participating department in the class. But if your department is not a participating department, which means that it did not donate money to support their students, then you can actually either talk to your department about the support, or you can take the class just as if it's like more formal UROP class. So you can get those credits, the academic unit. But then if you are not from the supporting departments, then basically we cannot pay you in the class. Okay, so what are the deliverables? So in the fall term, as I said, so the deliverable in the class, first attendance is mandatory. I'm sorry, but it's like we invite faculty and professors here in double ECS, we invite people from the industry. So it's very important that you actually show up to classes. And during the class, we ask a question about the lecture, about the whatever those people have presented by the end of the class, and you enter the answer online, and that will be your attendance. So in addition to classes, the class is 1 hour per week. And there is also 1 hour of recitation every other week. And there is about 15 minutes every other week just checking in with your TA, making sure that everything is going right. And if you have problems, you can talk to your TAs. If you have, they can give you also feedback about your research in general. And at the end of the fall term, you prepare a poster, and then you present that poster. So now for the spring, it's very, very similar to the fall, except that instead of a poster, now you are working on a 10-page paper that you finish by the end of the spring semester. And you still go and update your poster because now you have more results, and you present your poster again at the end of the spring semester, but now with full-fledged results and understanding of your problem. And many of the people ask the question, okay, so what is the grade that I get by the end of the fall term? But that's not the right way to think about it. Your grade, you don't really get a grade at the end of the fall term. So it is a 2-term class. So think about at the end of the fall term is like you're finishing your midterm. So You can know that whether you did well or not as well, but you don't really have a grade at that point. It is one class that extends across the fall and the spring, and you really get your grade, whatever that is, at the end of the spring term. Okay, so
You don't get any units if you don't get any units if you don't finish both.
yeah. So it's one class. So again, think about it exactly as at the end of the fall, it's kind of like you finish your midterm. If you drop the class at that point, you don't get any units from the class. So also there was a particular opportunity from a particular donor who saw that MIT students don't get interested enough in humanities, and he wanted to promote the connection between humanities and engineering. So he donated for people who to pay for projects that combine engineering with humanities. So if you are interested in that, you can apply for those projects too. Okay, so also you get a certificate. So you get a nice piece of paper, let's say certificate, and you pass your SuperUROP class, and we have a celebration, bring cookie and food and all that stuff. We take pictures. Okay, so I'm going to stop a bit here and ask whether you have any questions. Yes?
How does project proposal work?
Okay, so online, there is a site that has proposals or project descriptions by professors in various departments in the School of Engineering. And you can go there and look at those proposals, talk to the PI, talk to the professor, and see whether it's a good match for you. And then at the end, you are asked to, now based on understanding of that project and understanding if what you talk to the faculty about, write a short proposal that I'm going to do this project, that's my proposal for the work that I'm going to do here. And I'm going to tell you the exact deadline for that.
Can it also work with visual solution project that's not necessarily mentioned on the SuperUROP website, but that is one that comes out as a result of conversation with the professor?
Yeah, that's possible. Yeah. Yes?
Can you apply to SuperUROP with an existing UROP? So just like, if you get the professor, just apply with that UROP?
Yeah, but you can do it, but we ask that the work that you do for the SuperUROP is a new research. So you can extend your project and do the next step with it, and that would be your SuperUROP. But we don't accept that, oh, I did this UROP before, and here's my paper, here's all the work that I did, now pay me $6,000. That doesn't work. Okay. Other questions? Yes.
Oh, for this, is it that you like apply to this program and then you like look for like a project to work on within it, or is it you apply to a project and then into?
So to make things a bit easier for you guys, we ask the professors to upload projects on the site, and you can go and look at those projects and see whether you are interested in any of them. Talk to the professor and see whether you have a good match. But also, as your friend here said, basically, if you have already a project and you have a faculty who's interested in mentoring you as you are doing this project, that's fine as well. Yeah.
Does your project have to have an intersection with courses?
It has to have intersection with engineering, but this is under the School of Engineering. There are, I think, most of the department in the School of the Engineering are supporting department, but yeah, it doesn't have to be course 6, so I mean, as long as it has an engineering component. Yeah.
So if it's an interdisciplinary project, would like course 8 or 18 is not possible?
18 is math?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it's possible. I love math.
So you submit your proposal for a project after the deadline, and then after you want to work on that same project, maybe like the research you're doing is like different than what you submitted, and you like talk to the professor about it, and like they're okay with it. Is it okay to like change it?
It is okay. Yeah, it is okay. But keep in mind that basically, I mean, kind of like you have to take responsibility. So if you change things later in the term or like after some deadlines, we are flexible, but it means that you have to ramp up in shorter period of time. So as long as you are responsible and you know that you can do that, no problem. Okay. So I'll take more questions, but let me just ask you guys. So why should you do 6UR? Why should you do SuperUROP? I mean, there are many classes at MIT. There are many of them that are very interesting. Why should you do SuperUROP? Grad school. Okay. Why SuperUROP could be useful for grad school? Yeah, I mean, basically, research is essential if you want to go to grad school. In fact, I mean, at this stage, people expect that you have some publication or at least some submission. So to go to, again, don't get scared. Just seeing like the faces are flashing. But I mean, basically, the more research background you have as you apply for grad school, the better position you are in to get accepted and to get the interest of really the good faculty in that department. Why else? Why should you do this? Come on, yes. Invent. Yeah. So this is like, I was an MIT student actually. I didn't do my undergrad here. I did my grad school here. And I remember like when I was a graduate student, I mean, basically MIT students will not stop talking. It's just like ask questions that are, in many cases, even random questions. Just keep talking. Now you guys are so shy. It's just like, this question, nobody asking any questions. Yes?
I think it's a chance to pursue a project that you're passionate about.
A chance to pursue?
A project that you're passionate about.
Yeah. So actually, honestly, the most important reason to do this is to try actual research. And particularly if you're passionate about something, like some particular field of research, to try to get into it, understanding it. So the way, just to give you an example, so you guys, I mean, I don't know, how many of you have been engaged in research so far? Okay, so that's good, like a reasonable percentage of you. But if you think about it, I mean, MIT, what is so special about MIT? I mean, the classes are great, but really this is a research university. This is a place where the best and most interesting research in engineering happens. And if you are spending like 4 years here and graduating with a degree, whether you are going to grad school or going to the industry or starting your own company, whatever it is, it's like if you haven't done research and haven't experienced it, then you miss the whole point. I mean, you miss the best thing here. I mean, yeah, you got the classes, but that's really not the whole story. That's a very, very small part of the story. It's like going to Paris and not seeing the Eiffel Tower, for example. It's like everyone's going to ask you about this. So it is an opportunity to get exposed to research. Some people really love it after that, and they decide they want to go to grad school. They want to become researchers. Very few people discover, no, this is not for me, but at least you tried it. So the most important reason is actually to do research. What else you get by taking this class? Yes?
Half a question, half like what
Yeah.
advice you should do it. It gives you more guarantee of what you can get out of a UROP. Like a normal UROP, perhaps you're not guaranteed that you're going to get certain experience out of it in terms of like poster, submission, writing a paper.
Yeah.
Whereas this would be a more guaranteed and fast-tracked route.
Exactly. So I mean, in a sense, I mean, for people who did UROP and had like a very structured and organized UROP experience, I mean, you got a lot of the experience with research. But what the class allows you to do is to do it in a more systematic way. And for people who haven't done it, to actually do it. But basically, because not only you are doing research, you are also presenting that research as about like, okay, tell me about your research, prepare a poster about your research, talk to me about your research. Then you are actually learning the whole process of doing the research while you are doing that in the lab, but also how do you present your research, how do you eventually get a technical paper, hopefully, out of it, and be an effective researcher, both in terms of doing the actual work and communicating it to other people, and being paid for it. Okay, other reason to do it? No? How about the communication requirements? Right. So many of you have this communication requirement, so you get done with it. So I mean, these are few reasons, right? Always in the feedback, people are happy about the money. So this is, but I don't think that's, of course, the most important reason. The most important reason is the research and being exposed to the research. That's the one thing that you should not miss after 4 years at MIT. And you get your CIM requirements. So other things about the class that are cool is, like, it's really even cool for me as professor at MIT. So every lecture, we invite 1 to 2 speakers. And those people are MIT faculty. So imagine those people are typically paid, I don't know, like humongous amount of money to come and give a lecture somewhere. But they come and give you each one of them come to one of those classes to tell you about their research, to tell you about what they are doing. And it is really a great opportunity that doesn't happen otherwise. And you get to see research across the whole broad spectrum of engineering, from machine learning to computer vision to NLP to circuits to computer systems to networks to sometimes people in material science, in biology or bioengineering, digital health. It's a whole broad spectrum. And yeah, you are in the lab doing one thing, focusing on your problem and your project, but it gives you perspective and breadth across all of these fields and areas. And that's really, I mean, as you get to experience it, actually is a great experience if you are interested. I mean, you are all at MIT, so I'm assuming you are interested in science and engineering. Okay, so where to learn more about the SuperUROP? So you can go to superurop.mit.edu. And if you want to apply, then you apply at superurop-apply.mit.edu. And this is the contact email. I mean, if you go to the site, you'll find all the email and the information. But the other thing that I want to end with is some of the deadlines, so that all of you are aware of them. So April 3rd. So as we said, basically, go on the website, try to check for the projects that are available, and you are also free to try to create your own project as long as you find some professor who's willing to supervise that project. So April 3 is a deadline of having intent and saying that you want to join the SuperUROP. April 27 is the deadline for submitting a proposal. So as we said, you go and talk to that professor, you understand the project better, and then you submit about 1 page of description of that project. Typically, we ask you to have some figures just to show that you have some understanding of the project that you're going to work on. And in June, we announce the funding and who is going to be in the class. Do you want to add something, Dorsey?
So that says include letter of recommendation support for primary supervisor. You don't have to include it. You have to ask your supervisor to upload it independently. So
is it full recommendation or just that they accept the student to work with them?
They say, I'm enthusiastic about supervising this student. I believe they will be successful in the project they have proposed.
Yeah, so it's not like they don't have to write a full letter of recommendation. It's just that they are saying that they are enthusiastic to work with you and they have talked to you. Okay, so that's the last slide I have, and I can answer 2 more questions. Yes?
How does the application review work? Who reviews the application? What are the chances of getting in?
Yeah, so the chances are very high. We try, unless we believe that, for example, your GPA is, if the person's GPA is very low and we think that they are taking too many classes, or the GPA might be high, but they are taking too many classes, they don't have time to spend 10 hours in the week per week in the lab, then those cases are the ones that get rejected mostly. Most people get accepted. So as long as you are doing reasonably well, you are not overloading yourself, we think that you have reasonable chance of succeeding in the class, then you get accepted. And the advisor has to, of course, agree to supervise you.
The applications.
What?
Who's reviewing the applications?
The staff, the SuperUROP staff. So the staff is a collection of faculty, research, senior research staff, and TAs.
So if you were to not have funding and you're doing this for credit, how would the credit work? Would it just be 10 hours of credit like a UROP and then would be graded or ungraded?
So it will be like Europe, and Dorsey has been with the class for, I don't know, since it started in 2012, so she has, do you have to?
I didn't hear the question.
So if the SuperUROP were for credit, would it just be 10 hours of ungraded credit? How would that work?
Pass.
Huh?
Pass, fail.
Pass fail.
Yes?
Should that transcript, does it need to be an official one, or can you just like take a screenshot of the grade report?
Can she take a screenshot of the transcript?
Does it have to be an official transcript?
So for people to submit their transcript, is it okay if they just take a screenshot of the transcript?
Yeah. Unofficial. Don't spend money, nothing. Don't get it signed, we can't read it. There's digital certificate.
I would try to be flexible. It's not, the objective is not to make you go out of your way.
Is there like a set list of professors that can be SuperUROP supervisors, or can you get any as long as you like establish contact with them?
So they have to be, their department has to be part of the participating department. Like there are, I mean, giving, like for example, I guess mechanical engineering is a participating department, so you can get a professor there. I don't know, there might be some department X, I don't know, biology probably is not a participating department, and then you can't just have somebody in biology. If you have somebody in biology, then we ask you to have someone as kind of like a shadow advisor in AACS.
But if, if you're in 6-7,
Yeah.
it can definitely work.
Yeah, and you guys can send emails, like if you have specific questions that are not answered or you have a specific case, so please send email to this account.
Yes. You're highly likely to get into the class, and then the next question is whether we have money to support you. So that's a little bit more challenging question.
What is the difference between figuring these two out? What is the difference between getting into the class and getting funded?
Getting into the class means you can go to the class and do your research for credit. EECS works hard to raise money to support SuperUROP students, and we don't know how many we're going to have, and we don't know whether the sponsors are going to show up. We're optimistic.
So basically, the department raises money every year to pay the students. So we don't know ahead of time how much money we'll be able to raise, and therefore how many students in total we can accept for funding.
EECS students working with EECS professors, that's highly likely to get funded. EECS students working with AeroAstro or MECI professors, we funded them last year, but we had enough money.
So AeroAstro student working with AeroAstro professors, even less.
Well, it depends whether AeroAstro can find any.
Maybe we can take it. I'm just worried about, like, there are 2 more speakers. I can come to the end of the class and answer your question, or Dorsey can answer your question, but I want to allow the other 2 speakers enough time. So, Odd?
I don't move first, but so I go next?
Yes.
Yeah.
Either of you guys.
If I slide down next?
The slides?
Yeah, let's do all that.
That's me. Good afternoon, everyone. So the Quest for Intelligence is an MIT-wide initiative on the science, engineering, and application of intelligence. And this year, we are very happy to offer over 20 SuperUROP possibilities of funding. And so I'm one of the directors of the Quest, and I'm going to give you a brief overview of the topics. But most of the opportunities related to the quest are not yet on the website. We hope to have posted all of them next week on the website. So you have kind of a preview right now. So the project come in certain different type of organization. There is what we call the Bridge project. So the Quest Bridge is a community of research scientists and software engineers who are working with undergraduate and graduate students towards very big and large projects, and you have a few titles over here. If you're interested to work with other students on a topic that is highlighted here, from gaze tracking in childhood, or greenhouse gas impact, very important, face recognition, anything related to biology, like some topics, then this might be something that is good for you. So we have a few on this. There is a second type of SuperUROP opportunity that are actually more tied to brain and cognitive science development, and we call them the Quest Science, and they have a nickname, Scaling AI the Human Way. And this is an ambitious research program that is led by Professor Josh Tenenbaum and many other faculty at MIT and CSEL. And it's how can we build and grow a system that will have some intelligence resembling human and a child. So there will be a few projects also on that topic. A further class of project, they are more on computational science and engineering project. Those will be faculty-driven. So when you go next week to the website and you see some project you're interested in, if you see Quest, written somewhere, Quest for Intelligence, it will be one of those funded by us. And here you have 3 examples that are on a various topic. And we also have a project that are like, we don't put an ad about it, but I tell you about it. Those will be any faculty or project you will propose to a faculty related to fintech, then we could pick it up if it's a project that is interesting in that area. So this is sort of this, either you're interested in this larger topic, the finance industry, and many of the machine learning algorithms that are related to this, then you can find a faculty and come back to us saying, hey, I found a faculty, I have a good idea, can we do something together? So those are more open. And we also have some that are related to the MIT IBM Watson AI Lab. I'm also the director of this lab on a variety of topics. You will see the variety of topics next week. And what I would like to emphasize today is certainly for the Bridge project, the computational engineering one, some of the fintech and the MIT IBM. If you are interested to go to industry, then those are potentially sort of projects where you will do a research, still at MIT, with an MIT professor, but more aligned to some of the questions that are interesting in industry. So therefore, beyond grad school, those could offer you the possibility to have also somebody from IBM co-supervising you, but also start touching some of the questions interesting for industry. Again, most of them will be online next week. Thank you. Is there a question I should take? All right. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Maddie Wozniak, and I was a SuperUROP student last year. And so first off, does anyone have any questions about my experience personally? Because I also have talking points, but if there are any specific questions.
How did you find SuperUROP? I don't know if you did UROPs in the past, but did you find, and if you did you see a difference taking this sort of SuperUROP versus difference between UROPing during your classes and taking SuperUROP?
Yeah, so to find my project, there's a list of SuperUROP projects, and so I just went on that site and looked through the projects and found some that I was interested in. and then reached out to the supervisors and met with them, and then just like saw what would be a good match and went with that. And then in terms of your second question with the UROP, I think SuperUROP was a lot like more structured and like focused, kind of like how Dina talked about. You have like deliverables throughout the year that you're actually like working on, and so towards the end you have like a paper written and also a poster, and so you're like guaranteed to have that. And then also, I guess I had like weekly meetings with my supervisor, and so that really helped like keep the research going. And then also having like the 10 hours a week set was a good way to like make sure that we were like constantly working, because I know with UROPs it's like not as much pressure, and it would sometimes like sink lower on my priority list. But with SuperUROP, since there's like a class associated with it and everything, it was like higher on my priority list. So yeah.
Classwork involved?
What?
What's the coursework involved, like, for the class?
So the main stuff is the paper, and then there's also the poster. But then instead of like, they kind of like split it up over the course of the semester. So I think you have to write like an introduction for like 1 week, and then you move into like methods, and then related work and results. And so it's like split up like week by week. So I think they do a really good job of like helping you manage your time. So it's not like a scramble at the end of the semester to like put it all together.
So in looking for a project, do you just like find one on the SuperUROP website and like reach out to that professor, or are you like reaching out with the intent of like I read about your project and like here's this thing I want to like extend on, I guess?
Yeah, so for me, it was they had a proposed project, and then I just like talked to them about it and like learned more about it, and really was interested in it, and so I just went with that. I know you can also like continue extending a current UROP. I think you can also like reach out to professors and just like learn more about their research and see if you want to extend it too. So there's like a bunch of different options.
Yes, there's posted projects, but you can do your SuperUROP with anyone, and not every professor posts projects. So you should go with professors you've done well with in their class, stuff like that.
Any other questions? So I guess I can just like talk a little bit more about my experience. The reason that I wanted to go into SuperUROP was because I was planning to do an MEng, and I thought that it would be like more structured and more long term than just a semester long UROP. And so the main reason was to prepare for the MEng, and then I also wanted like the mentorship in the lab and also the classroom to improve the research and communication skills. And so my project was working with Professor Thomas Helt, and then I worked with a doctor at Beth Israel Medical Center named Wendy Timpson. And so my project was on leveraging clinical data to optimize oxygen delivery to preterm infants in the neonatal intensive care unit. And so we were just analyzing different factors that may be affecting the oxygenation of preterm infants, and then trying to figure out if we can improve the clinical workflow to maximize the amount of time patients spend in their target oxygen range to prevent mortality and morbidity. And so, as I mentioned before, it was like a really guided research experience. I thought the weekly meetings with the professor and the clinician was really helpful. And so if you guys do SuperUROP, I would recommend like setting that up, because it really like keeps the research like moving along. I also got a bunch of great opportunities, such as like shadowing the neonatologist and a nurse at the hospital, and just like learning more about the hospital workflow. And then there were like weekly lab meetings where we would learn about like other researchers in the lab and what research that they're doing. And then I also got to present at that. So I got like feedback on my work and different ideas that I could incorporate. I also got to present at the New England Perinatal Society meeting, which was like a mini conference for neonatologists and clinicians in the New England area. And so that was a really good experience, and definitely helped with like presentation practice. And just overall, it was really great to work on the project and really like dive deep into it over the course of the year. On the classroom side of things, I thought that 6UIR was like really interesting and useful. The weekly lectures with the researchers presenting their work, it was really cool to see like different domains across campus, and just like stay up to date on research at MIT. And then there are also TAs and communication instructors that would provide helpful feedback for the research paper and also the poster.
You should have told them about any downsides.
I don't know if there were any downsides. I know some people have said that some of the assignments might be like busy work, but like personally, I thought that everything was really useful and like really helped guide like writing the paper. So yeah, I don't know about downsides.
No, I mean, if there were any, I wanted you to say them before the
Yeah,
end.
yeah. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything like negative about SuperUROP. So.
This might not be too just for anyone else to answer. Is there ever a time, because you're doing research, sometimes research doesn't work out, right? What happens then if you're trying something and it's not working, and it's not working, and it's not working, and the
So you
results
have all
don't
these
come?
meetings every week with
Yeah.
people and, you know, you will get, everybody will agree what's happening. And hopefully they will have some other ideas about other paths to pursue. Some people change projects between the fall and the spring, but that's pretty tricky because you have to do kind of all the fall work to catch up. So, and for the paper, you can have negative results, or you can write up everything you tried. I mean, that's really useful to other people working in the field, to know what you tried.
Yeah. Yeah, personally, I didn't have any like major roadblocks, but I know that some people do, and I think if you just like communicate with your supervisor, it'll like all work out in the end. Yeah. I guess now that I'm thinking about it, like one like kind of downside was in the fall. I think since you're like ramping up your research, within the first like 2 weeks, there's already like things due, like an introduction, and so it's totally okay to like not have like your methods like totally fleshed out yet, and just like having like a starting introduction and methods is always like good. And so you don't need to freak out and be like, like I haven't started my research yet, like what am I supposed to be writing, like it's only 2 weeks in. So
Okay, if you run into trouble, you can also go to your TA and the SuperUROP staff and just let us know, and you can get Tina to talk to the professor to see if there's a way forward. So, you know, we're all there to try to provide some safety net.
yeah, that was another thing, is there's TAs and communication instructors that you work with, and so there's like check-ins with that, and they really help with the writing process and also putting together the poster. And so I thought those meetings were really helpful. Yeah, and so overall, like I think it was like a really good experience, and I highly recommend doing it. It's really cool to just work on your research over the course of a whole year, and then have the deliverables, like the poster and the paper at the end, to like showcase everything that you did. And like at the poster presentations, you also get to talk to like other people in your field, and they can be interested in your research, and then also like tell you what they've worked on, and it's just like a really interesting experience. So yeah.
So thanks for coming. There's flyers with dates at the back, there's a brochure at the back, there's more pizza, and let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.